Welcome back, Freedom Engineers. Today is the day we are going to level up. Oh my goodness. I thought that I was engineering my freedom when I quit my job and pursued my dream of a log cabin in the woods. And I thought that I was engineering my freedom when I manifested an amazing business opportunity. And not to say that I wasn't engineering my freedom, because I was, but I was doing it without realizing exactly how I was doing it. And I have to tell you, this past few weeks and months have just been so transformative. I am ready to take my life in a new direction of intentional freedom engineering. And I want to bring you on this journey with me. And I have just finished curating a 5 podcast series. So subscribe to this show because over the next 5 weeks, I am going to walk you through step by step how to intentionally engineer your freedom. By the way, if you hear my chickens, which you probably do, welcome to the Freedom Entrepreneur Podcast because they are a part of the show. They're little freedom engineers too because they won't stay in their coop. Anywho, I'm just so grateful for this journey. I'm so grateful to God for this awareness and for this blessing and for the outlet here on this podcast to be able to share that with you, my friends. Woo, I'm so excited. So if you are here for it again, please subscribe to that show. And whether you're on YouTube or listening on audio, whichever you prefer, and let's dig in. All right. Now, like I said in last week's episode, Joe Dispenza talks about this. He talks about marrying up a emotion with a thought. Remember they did a study, and I'm reading the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Again, I've read it already, but I'm reading it again. And he said they did a study where they were looking at people who were imagining an outcome, but not emoting. And they were studying molecules, and molecules were not affected by this. Then there were other people who were emoting, feeling, but were not being clear in their mind and their intention. And again, the molecules were unaffected. But when they emoted and had a clear picture in their mind, then things began to happen. Okay. So that is an interesting component. But, it's really one thing to read it in a book, and it's another to put it into practice and then have an experience. And I have to tell you, it brought up this question for me was, how can I emote when it feels false? Do you know what I mean? Have you ever done that? And I ran into this. I mean, in the early 2000s, this new agey movement came, right? It was all about feeling good and having good vibes. And even Abraham Hicks was all about the vibes and visualizing and so on. And I felt like for me, I could manifest sometimes. I could make things happen in my life sometimes, but I couldn't seem to do it with everything I wanted. And I wasn't really sure what the gap was. And now I am sure. And now I am clear about it. And I have, it's like there is a method to this madness. Although it's not really madness, it's really pure and beautiful. So anyway, listen, where I'm going with this is simply this. I was thinking about this for deep thinking for a few days. I'm like thinking back to even the book Think and Grow Rich. He talked about a burning desire. And I remember having a burning desire when I lived in Arizona. It moving to North Idaho, moving to a log cabin in the woods was a burning desire. It was a non-negotiable. It was happening come hell or high water. And let me tell you, hell happened and high water. We had both. And I think I've shared that story about the flood that happened in my house I was selling in Arizona. It's crazy because in that moment, anything and everything that could have happened to look like a block to what I was trying to create happened. And yet I was still consistent and persistent and ultimately achieved my goal because I had that burning desire, right? So I would say, and if you look at history and you look at the greats, I mean, amazing business people or anybody who's accomplished something worthy of being a historical person, they all had a burning desire. But what if you have a goal, but not a burning desire to achieve that goal? What do we tend to do with that? We tend to lean into strategy. We lean into creating habits. And listen, am I here to say, am I telling you that if you focus just on developing habits and focusing on implementing strategy, that you will not see growth? Of course not. Of course not. You will see growth. You will, however, fizzle out when it gets hard. You will see yourself switching gears a lot because it's not feeling energetic. You will see maybe not the results that other people get with that same strategy. Okay. So it's muted, if that makes sense. So it's not wrong. It's just not enough. It's true. Action and strategy can take you a long way. But if you don't have desire, my friends, if you don't have desire, it will not bring you to that jubilation, that feeling of accomplishment that just makes your heart sing. And that is what I'm about. I'm sure that's what you're seeking. If you're seeking freedom, if you're one of those people who, like me, you want to buck the system, you're not in it to just play small, and you're not in this to just be complacent in life, right? You are seriously in this to win this. And you have a burning desire for success, but maybe it's not fully designed yet. Or maybe it feels more like a nice to have dream. It would be so nice if. And listen, we're the masters of manipulation when it comes to our thinking. As humans, our brains are so amazing, but it is also an amazingness that can be used against us. Okay, so what do I mean by that? And I'll give you a very clear example of something that I saw clearly in myself. Again, back in the 90s and the late 90s and the 2000s, when this new age movement really started to take like blossom, I became the master of teaching myself it's okay. It's okay. I am going to be an acceptance of what is. So what I mean by that is when something was uncomfortable or I disagreed with it, um, I would get very angry and I would get very emotional about it. And I programmed myself through that movement to feel good no matter what. Frankly, it's bullshit. It's a lie that I learned to lie to myself. I learned to tell myself that I am, I am, I am okay no matter what. Now, here's the fact. When I decided to set a financial goal that was larger than my comfort level, my threshold, guess what happened? I didn't achieve it. And I was comfortable making the bare minimum or whatever it was that my psychological threshold has been set to. And we've talked about this on the show. I know that for sure. Essentially, a threshold, you have a mindset that tells you you are maybe making this much a month, and you will see a pattern in your life that keeps you bringing you to that point. But to break through that barrier, it's a subconscious block. Now, we're going to dive into how to fix that. That's what this whole series is about, and then some. But to start, we're talking today about desire and having that burning desire. Now, like I said, I was really thinking like how would I engineer freedom on a consistent basis? I could see that I created this and I created that, and I could see that when those two things happened, I had the emotion and the clear vision about it put together and boom. But how could I recreate that with intentionality? And that brings me to step one, which is you must have a burning desire. So, when I wanted to elevate my financial status, I recognized that I did not have a burning desire. It was like that would be so stinking cool if I was making 45K a month and I see other people doing it. I'm like, wow, good for them, and that would be nice if, and I could mathematically get there. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I could create this package. I could sell this. I could do that. And the numbers lined up. But you know what didn't line up was the action and the action was there too. It just wasn't like coming together the way it did every single time I created something that I was really passionate about. Okay. So this is a moment I'm calling you to the mat, and I want you to check in with yourself. Your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. Do you have a burning desire for that goal? Is that goal a non-negotiable? This is the litmus test, okay? So my son, for example, he experiences some autism. He's on the spectrum, right? And one thing I love about people with autism, like this is such a blessing for them, is they have such clarity about what is a non-negotiable in their life, and they will not deviate from that. It's very hard for them to deviate from that. Unlike those of us who are not in that spectrum, we will give ourselves grace. We will allow ourselves to fall short. We will tolerate something other than our mission, whatever that mission may be. And I saw this in him just recently where, gosh, what were we talking about? I mean, it comes up all the time. Very specific with food. Like he'll be very specific about what he's going to eat. And it's a non-negotiable to go somewhere else for him. It could be, how he dresses or what type of car he gets. Actually, that's a really good example of that because he's very tall. And so Mommy Lindsay wanted him to drive something that fit his body and was safe on the road and was, all the things that I felt was important. And he wanted a white sports car, two-door coupe with an amazing sound system. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many reasons why this is a bad idea. And I was very nervous about it, but he was so dead set and it was his money he'd saved up. So I'm kind of like in this limbo. And I'll tell you what, God did amazing things in that situation. He found us the perfect car that totally met my son's criteria and met mine. It was a real blessing. All that to say, it was so evident to me what a non-negotiable was. So if you have somebody in your life who is neurodivergent, and maybe that's something that irritates you, maybe you're like, man, every time it's like they never compromise. That's because they have that burning desire and it's actually triggering you because you're lacking that and it's something you need more in your life. Just side story, but I will tell you but it's hard for those of us who are not neurodivergent to manifest a burning desire that really brings something to fruition, that passion. If we have taught ourselves to be complacent in life and to go along to get along, or maybe we grew up in a broken home, maybe alcoholism was in our home. Our brains are wired to keep the peace. And guess what that does? That does not create passion and a burning desire. Okay. All these life stories that could have happened to us to lead us to this point where here we are right now in this moment. We have a dream. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal. We really want to achieve it, but we do not have a burning desire. We are going today. I'm going to teach you how to identify that because step one really here is to get clear on whether or not you have a burning desire or if you're fooling yourself. Okay. Because that's really the fact is. Like, I know for a fact, I, um, I set a goal. I remember this back in like 2001, I think it was. I read the book Mentored by a Millionaire, and it was the first time I ever did a vision board. So many things have come true on my vision board, I must say. It's really cool. But one of the big things at that time was that I had seen myself retiring by the age of 45. I don't know why I pictured 45. It was just in my mind. It was an arbitrary number. I've held on to that all these years. And I am now 42, turning 43 this August, okay? Oh my gosh, this is so clear to me. It's such a good story because okay, I think I was in my early 20s. I was in my early 20s then. So, have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? It's this law essentially that says like if a college student has 60 days to finish a project, okay? In their mind, if their mind says, oh, that will take me 2 weeks to get done, rather than front loading it and doing it at the beginning of the 2 weeks, they'll wait till the very end and they'll do it in 2 weeks or 2 days or 2 hours. Doesn't really matter. Whatever their brain says is reasonable is how much time they'll really give themselves, even though they had the 60 days the entire time. Well, I suppose my 45-year-old retirement is exactly that. It's Parkinson's law because now I'm looking at the clock like, oh shit, I gotta get it into high gear. And it's funny because it'll be curious. I'm putting this out here in the airwaves. I'm curious to see what comes about in the next 2 years. It'll be very interesting to watch. But more importantly than that, to create and to manifest a burning desire, part of it is reverse engineering Parkinson's law. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Well, yes, set a timeline, but I've done that before where I'm like, by this day, I will be worth $1 million. And I've done the thing where you write a check to yourself to be cashed on that day. I've set the timeline. I've done all the things. Guys, I have been down every bunny trail you can to really hack this freedom engineering. And that date came and went, and I was not worth $1 million at that time, right? So my point is to say that's because I lacked a burning desire. It was a nice to have dream. So for right this moment, I want you to ask yourself, do I have a burning desire? And maybe what helped me really get clear on this with my current goal was to think back to times where I achieved something great, like the log cabin in the woods, like the business, and remember what was it like? What feelings was I having? What was that burning desire? What did it feel like? And remember that feeling. And then look at where I'm at with this goal and say, am I feeling that same level of intensity? And if the answer is yes, then you have a burning desire. And if the answer is no, and you will know instantly, then the answer is no, and you don't have a burning desire. So that's going to leave you with the next challenge, which is how to manifest a burning desire, which, you know, it's interesting because it's not it's not really that complicated, but if you're not aware of what that feeling is, you won't be able to manifest it because you won't have anything to compare it to. So we can talk about dreams, we could talk about goals, we can set strategies, we can put systems in place, we can tell all our friends about it, like all the things, which as you could see, it's like I'm holding this ball here in my hand. And for those of you listening on audio, I'm holding my hand up and I'm saying, you can talk about all of this. But until you've experienced it, it will not make sense. It will not happen. And you will feel like you are running on a treadmill, getting nowhere. Okay, that is the feeling. So if you are feeling like you are running on a treadmill towards your goal and you're not getting somewhere and it's not happening in that way that sparks this divine awing, like you want to be mesmerized by your life. Okay. Have you ever been mesmerized? Like something so amazing happened to you that you were just like, wow, that was totally a God thing. You want your life like that on a consistent basis. That is freedom engineering. And that is what we are about to dig up and make happen in your life. Okay. So, like I said, subscribe because today all we're doing is identifying a burning desire and really troubleshooting whether that big goal that you have is matching a burning desire. Some of you will know right away, yes. Some of you, it's questionable. Some of you are fooling yourselves and you're thinking you have a burning desire, but you don't. I've been in all three of those categories with different things. And this particular financial goal that I have, it was a burning desire, I thought. In fact, I thought it was a burning desire so much so that I hired a coach to help me achieve it. And I've I've been seeing her for I want to say 6 months, but it's not happening. But guys, when you have a burning desire, your dreams come true. Your visions come true fast. It doesn't have to be slow. It can be very you get in this like tunnel where things start to just pop. Um, that stems from manifesting a burning desire, being clear on it, and knowing each day where you're going. So we're going to get into that. Now, hold up just a second. What if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, I don't even have a goal right now. I mean, that could be the case. And I haven't even gone into that. I just kind of presumed you all have a goal if you're here. I'm assuming your goal is a freedom level of freedom of some point. Maybe that is quitting your job. Maybe that is moving. Maybe that is whatever it is. I think it's important to just take a little moment here as we wrap up today's episode to say this. Think bigger than a an outcome, a physical outcome. Think bigger than that. So, for example, if you're thinking, I need to quit my job, why? What is ultimately the goal of quitting your job going to do for you? You want to travel? Okay, so your goal is travel. That's still like a means to the end, so to speak. Here's what I'm saying. And let me just preface this by saying this. My son, I love him so much. He just to me the other day seemed sad. And I said to him, I'm like, honey, why are you sad? And he goes, I just don't want to be here. Now he's 16, and we've all been in that place in our life where um, we think the answer is leaving our parents' house. Okay. And the big wide world is waiting for us, and suddenly magically it's going to all get better when we do, right? We've all been in that position. But I'm telling you right now that that is a means to an end. And then you get out of the house and then it's like, then what? Then what? Um, the same thing is true for me when I wanted to go live in a log cabin in the woods. Guess what? I got there, and then what? It's like in Finding Nemo when they finally get out of the tank and it's like, now what? Right? This is my point. If your goal is a means to an end, or you think that goal somehow equals something else, you're missing the bigger picture. Your bigger picture, your freedom, has more to do with that feeling of aliveness. It is that passion, it's that feeling overwhelming and explosive in life, like just jubilation, rejoicing in every day. That is when you feel free, when you feel free. And it's got a little bit to do with life circumstances, but it has even more to do with just knowing that. And the creation, the joy of the creation, the joy of the achievement, the joy of knowing that you are limitless, that possibility is beyond you. It's infinite. That is freedom. Okay? And then living a life that exemplifies that knowing. That is freedom. So dig deep within yourself between now and next week and get clear on what it is your goal is. Like mine is reaching a certain financial threshold. Um, and that's because I'm breaking a barrier of living in my means. I want to break that barrier. I want to know that I am limitless possibility. I want to expand beyond that, and I want to live in the joy of the creation. Okay? So it's like this, oh, it just feels so good even just being in this moment with you. I hope you can feel this energy. It's really radiating through me. All right. So be present to this. Tune in next week. We are taking it further. We're going to talk about how to manifest a burning desire. And until then, stay connected, stay free. Bye for now.